The crystals in the eponymous Crystal Peak of Hallownest have some mysterious properties. They were mined extensively back in Hallownest's heyday and have taken over some creatures since the infection. But what powers do these crystals have exactly, and where does it come from? Crystals do contain some kind of energy within them, which is implied to be revealed when light is refracted through the crystals. This is likely what causes the laser beams that some of the crystals growing in Crystal Peak emit. The crystals were probably mined in order to harvest and utilize their energy for purposes such as powering technology. There must be some reserves of this energy somewhere even after the fall of the kingdom, because the trams still work despite the fact that all the workers in the mines are infected or dead. In fact, there appears to have once been a tram running into and through Crystal Peak from King's Pass, as evidenced by the remains of tracks and what appears to be a tram door leading out of King's Pass. One particular way that the crystals and their energy seem to have been manipulated is the Crystal Heart. Its energy can be charged and released at will by whatever entity contains or controls it. The one that the Knight consumes is found inside the body of a mining golem. These golems were likely created to mine crystals at a faster pace and on a larger scale than individual bug miners could. When the Knight approaches the Crystal Heart, it is absorbed into them automatically. Probably because the mining golem had stopped working and it was looking for a new container, and the Knight's vessel body is able to absorb things by nature. The Crystal Heart is clearly pretty powerful, as the Knight is initially thrown backwards from its force and can use it for an infinite number of super dashes afterward. The crystals are said to sing or whisper in multiple accounts. The power within the crystals might be the source of this resonance. It seems to be similar to the Godseeker's ability to sense the power of certain beings by listening to them using the God Tuner. The power in the crystals also seems similar to Soul, both in its property as an animating force and the whispers that can be heard coming from it. The crystals almost seem to be alive, as they can completely take over the bodies of living or once living creatures, as well as drive them to insanity. For the Crystal Guardian in particular, the crystals have grown to cover their head, making them particularly aggressive and very protective of the crystals in the area, as though controlled by them. In this way, the crystals are not so different from the infection. As Mila becomes more and more invested in the crystals, she gradually succumbs to the infection, and the two events are very likely connected, either directly or indirectly. The growth of the crystals seems to happen naturally, although it does seem confined to the Crystal Peak area specifically. Perhaps the mountain's caverns have special properties that make it the most ideal location for the crystals to grow. It's also possible that the crystal's growth was intentionally restrained beyond a certain boundary to keep it from intruding into the rest of the kingdom. The crystals otherwise seem to grow indiscriminately, as for example the snail shaman found in the crystallized mound is described as having been encased in a large crystal while she meditated for an extended period of time. As mentioned before, the crystals also grow onto corpses and infected husks. Finally, the crystals can apparently aid in the act of focusing soul, as evidenced by the quick focus and deep focus charms. This property is probably related to the crystal's ability to focus light, which manifests into the power and energy contained within them. Deep focus is made entirely of crystal and is described as having formed naturally, while quick focus contains a crystal as its center component. It's one of the many ways that different natural forces in the world of Hallownest are connected and able to affect and interact with one another. So what do you think of the lore of Crystal Peak? Which aspect do you find most intriguing or mysterious? Is there anything about it that I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. I'd really appreciate a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.